What's up, guys? It's your boy Bro Cobra here. We're going to be playing some Magic the Gathering core set, right? So, to prepare you for that, we got to do a review. We got to get you ready and set for that limited environment. And so, right now we're going to be doing the white color, and we're going to be moving on down. The cool thing about it is that we've actually shortened them about half from last time, so it should be a little bit easier for you to listen, even though my voice is terribly sexy. Yeah. Blow up your non-land permanents. Give your opponents golems. Isn't that right, Cavalier? Fist bump.
We got the white color here. And if you guys didn't check out our video before on all of our rankings, we'll post a mini map up over in that region. You can't really see the pen, so I'll point in that region over there where my finger disappeared in the top left hand corner. But definitely check out the video because we'll go a little bit more in depth and explain each one of them in case you need some more verification on that. But as we're moving into white, we got Glaring Aegis. Aegeus. You get to tap a creature when it enters the battlefield. Your creature gets +1/+3 for 1 white mana. This one's pretty good. It looks like we said 1.5 on this one.
That doesn't sound like pretty good to me, Alex.
Pretty good. I guess I don't want to be like too.
I think you play it sometimes in your aggressive decks, and I think there's a lot of white decks you don't play it in. That's why we gave it a 1.5.
1.5. God's Willing. Look at that graphic.
That's nice.
God's Willing, I had 2.5.
Yeah, I actually gave God's Willing 3 just because it's so efficient. I always get this warm, fuzzy feeling when I play my bomb and 1 white mana up. And I'm just like, well, I can't lose now.
So it's a very versatile card.
But even if you're not protecting your bomb, it's just always very versatile. And removal kind of costs a lot in this format, or it's an aura. And pro tip, guys, if you cast God's Willing on your creature with pacifism and your opponent's attacking you, they will concede. I'm just kidding.
But they will
get blown out.
Concede.
It will be a huge blowout, though. Like, the God's Willing, if they put pacifism on your 5/5 and they attack into you with, like, their 4/4, and you're just like, oh, God's Willing, and then you get a 2-for-1.
I block.
And you scry 1. It's such good value.
So good. You can also push through their team if they left only, like, green blockers back or something.
Yeah, protection is a hell of a thing.
It's one hell of a drug.
To our next card, Loyal Pegasus. Flying 2/1. Can't attack or block alone for 1 white.
We had some discrepancy on this.
We did. Yes, we did.
I chose it to be a 1.5. I feel like it's only going to go in specific decks that it will be good in, but the ability to not be able to do attack and block just by itself really pushes it back for me.
So I put it, actually, I graded it as a 2.5 just because I think most of the white decks are in this format are going to want it, and it's like the only good aggressive 1-drop in this that's white in this like whole format. That's why I gave it like a 2.5. I think you'll play it in most of your white decks, and you'll know the white decks that don't want to play it, and there's probably the ones with low creatures, but I don't really know what white deck you're going to play low creatures. Or if you're like a really controlling white deck, maybe, but I don't really know what white deck is controlling this format.
I don't think you want to be controlling with this card.
Okay, well.
But,
1.5
so yeah.
/2.5.
Take the arguments as you like. I guess what we'll do is we'll just do the average of the two if there is a big discrepancy, just so that you can get a good value for it. But if one of our arguments was a little bit more appealing to you...
The average would be a 2 then?
Yeah, so just a 2.
2 overall, maybe?
Soulmender.
This is the other white 1-drop in the format.
other white meat.
But it's not something that you play in an aggressive deck.
Nope. I gave it a 1.5.
I gave it a 1.5 too. I think you only play it if you really care about gaining life. If you have one of the life gain payoffs, you probably pick it and you play it. Otherwise, they should stay in your sideboard.
Yep. Black, white, life gain, put it in. But it's pretty bad everywhere else.
Moving on to Yoke Dogs.
He's yoked!
I guess this is technically also a one drop.
Yeah.
But this is... I don't think this is a card you should ever be main decking, though. So, I think this is like a strict sideboard card. You bring it in when your opponent's like super aggressive on the ground, and then it gains you a bunch of life.
0 to 0.5 is what I put down.
I agree with that.
Alright. Just don't.
Moving on to
Ancestral Blade from our ancestors.
I think this card is deceptively powerful.
Deceptive.
The floor is you get a 2/2 for 2, which is not great. It's serviceable and limited, but the fact that it leaves after you can stare it off the 2/2, and then you have this equipment left over, and the equipment's not super high value equipment, but it's kind of a 2-for-1 in that sense, especially in an aggressive deck. So I gave this card a 3.5.
I gave it a 3. I think it's serviceable, but I don't think it's like super uber powerful. But I think what we'll also do is if there is a discrepancy of 0.5, then I will concede the vote to Brandon because he is a lot more experienced in
I'm the expert.
limited environment. Yeah.
I'm the limited expert. That's why I'm here.
That's why he's here.
That's why he brought me here to his home.
So we're going to go with 3.5 on this one. 3.5. Angelic Gift.
Angelic Gift.
Beautiful.
We were definitely in agreement here.
1.5.
It is beautiful, but we'd give it a 1.5 because this kind of card, it's not a creature, it's not a removable spell, it's not really a trick either. It just really gets into your deck, but we think that maybe red-white might play it to sneak in some damage, or blue-white might play it to make their own flyers, because that's like we think it's going to be a flyer deck.
Yeah. I mean, it's like kind of nice when you're able to draw a card, but depending on what you put it on, the card could be negated by just additional removal. So, auras in general
but it's definitely,
aren't normally valued too high, but
it's definitely filler.
Yeah, it's definitely fillable.
That's why it's 1.5.
Apostle of Purifying Light. He's got pro black. That is sexy. I gave it a 3.
I also gave it a 3. Protection is back, whether you like it or not. Here it is. It's back, and it's ruining limited once again.
I love it. I love it.
So this card is something that you would main deck. Not because it's a 2/1, but it's a 2/1 that 40% of the time is going to be really, really good. And that's why we think it's like a 3.
Yeah, pretty solid. The exile card effect can be relevant as well.
Yeah,
so it definitely pushes it up.
Yeah, this is one of the protection cards that we think you should always main deck.
Solid. Bishop of Wings.
Well, main deck when you're in white anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna main deck it in my mono red.
Don't splash it. Maybe
too
if your
good.
opponent's mono black, you can splash it.
Yeah,
Bring
right.
it another board and splash it. Anyways, Bishop of Wings.
I gave it a 2.
It's a rare 1/4. It's really good with angels. Otherwise, it's not really good.
Not too good.
I originally was a little bit lower on this card, but I also think it's a 2, just because you'll play it in your defensive decks as a 1/4, and there's a few angels at common and uncommon. Notably, one angel at common makes this a lot better. So, it's a 2. Play it in your defensive white decks, or your angel, or decks with a few angels, and it'll be good.
Cool. All right. Brought back. We had some discussion on this before.
Oh yeah.
And there's a pretty big discrepancy, or there was initially. We went a little bit closer, but this card you get to choose 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn, then return them to the battlefield tapped. I chose this to be a 3 because I felt like it's a very good combat trick, as well as a way to recoup some of the losses depending on if your opponent's using a lot of removal or not. I think it can also be used defensively or aggressively, which means that it's a bit more versatile than most combat tricks.
And I gave it a 2 because I think it's a lot more situational than Alex thinks, because I don't live in best case scenario land. And I think the
Magical
average case...
Christmas land?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Magical Christmas Land, but I didn't know if you would get that reference.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Felt a lot more
Alex
demeaning
lives
the other
in
way.
Magical Christmas Land, or best case scenario land. And I think the average case of this card is going to be pretty mediocre. It's going to be like effectively blinking something a lot of time. Like blinking one thing. And I think that it's a huge cost to have to be leaving up white every turn until it is like good. That's why I'm down on it.
Gotcha. Well, as mayor of Value Town, this seems pretty sweet, especially with like enter the battlefield abilities, and especially when you have like bone splitters or like different ways to be able to sacrifice your creatures to be able to manipulate this card even more. Plus, it works with the new rare land, right? So why not? Anyway, since we did have a discrepancy here.
Lotus Field?
Yeah, Lotus Field. Just play with Lotus Field. Your 2 rares.
Come on. You have 5 mana in play when you do that. Or 4 mana in play at least.
No, you can play it on turn 3.
I guess you're right. You can float white.
Potentially.
Play the Lotus Field and then bring back those 2 lands. Oh, that's
amazing.
That's kind of sick.
Anyway, as mayor of
that's some ram
Value Town.
Alright.
We have a discrepancy of 3 and 2, so we're just going to make it the difference, so 2.5.
Alright.
That's not in here.
That one is.
There we go. We got Daybreak Chaplain. Lifelinker 1/3 for 2.
It's a pretty simple card, but it is a 2-drop, so in other formats you play this in your non-aggressive white decks. You definitely play it in your life gain deck. So that's why it's 2, which is like C-.
Yep. I can only rate it as much as I can.
Don't really have
cast
much else to
for.
say about it. It's a pretty simple card.
2 mana
Moving on.
for a 2 card.
Moving on
2/2.
to Devout Decree.
Devout Decree, look at him!
Right,
He's exploding.
So this is a really powerful card if your opponent's playing black and or red. Otherwise it doesn't do anything. So we think it's a sideboard card, but we think on average you should pick it like it's a 3.
Yeah, the exile effect is very, very good in this format, and the Planeswalker effect is also very relevant for this card, especially since there's 3 different Chandras in the format now. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit more relevant.
When you bring it in from the board, it's going to be a 4.
Yeah, especially like what was the other one?
Prison Realm?
No, the one from like
Celestial Purge?
Yeah, Celestial Purge. It's like Celestial Purge, but you get to scry. It's amazing. I mean, Celestial Purge was permanent, but
it's also an instant.
Yeah,
but scrying
is
really
like
valuable.
A similar thing.
Yeah, it's similar to Celestial Purge.
It's just like the scry is also so powerful.
So
like
take it like it's a 3, put it on your sideboard, and be thrilled to bring it in again when it's good.
Be thrilled. We got Disenchant finally back.
Another strict sideboard card, but this is going to be much less. I think on average you should pick it like it's a 1, and you should only bring it in when your opponent has really powerful or a lot of semi-powerful artifacts or enchantments. If you see multiple pacifism, you can bring it in, or broken artifact or something like that. Otherwise, leave it in your sideboard. Chat.
Yeah, pretty solid.
And what's our next card? Next card is Eternal Isolation.
Yeah, Eternal Isolation. We got 2.5 on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5.
I think on average it's going to be like a 2.5. A lot of times it's going to be... We think most decks will have something that'll target with it, and if they do, this is a really, really good rate. 2 mana for this.
Yeah, almost always.
Would be quite good.
Like, if they play their trick to pump, then you can just, like, put it on the bottom.
It's a sorcery.
It's sorcery? Oh my god. We got...
It's like a better Legion's Judgment.
Baby Teferi's out, right?
Everything's a sorcery with Baby Teferi's
Baby
out.
Teferi's everywhere now. So we got Fencing Ace, the Double Striker 1/1 for 2. I put him down as a 2.
I gave him a 2.5.
5. I can see that. There are a lot of enchantments and pump effects that could actually make him over the top good. But
I think he goes up to a 3 in a deck that has that kind of stuff.
yeah, but just as face value, I think 2.5 is a bit more accurate, especially since the body itself just isn't that big.
Okay.
It feels like a 1/2.
So we agree. 2.5 for Fencing Ace.
2.5.
That's not a card. So.
Oh. I was gonna say. So having a senior moment there.
Well, these Planeswalker decks are messing us up, man.
And there's no way to, like, differentiate it on Arena.
There's no easy way.
So, moment of Homer... a moment of homoism.
Wow, it's not that bad.
Moment of heroism.
I shouldn't be making fun of this card.
I'm sorry, I'm not. This card's
okay.
good.
It's fine.
fine. It's like, it's not...
It's a 2, right?
It's a 1.5.
You think it's 1.5?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The lifelink does come in as a pretty big factor, especially if you're like an aggressive deck, but more often than not, it's like one of the lower end tricks.
Yeah, it'll be better in the life gain deck. Otherwise, it's pretty replaceable with other tricks, so 1.5.
Moorland Inquisitor. I put it as a 2.5. The 2/2 for 2 that has the ability to gain first strike is pretty relevant.
I also gave it a 2.5. It's just a solid 2-drop that you'll play most of the time in your white decks.
2/5. Pacifism. There's a T in there, it's silent. Pacifism. I gave it a 3.5. This is one of the premium removal spells for white.
Yeah, I agree. This is your premium removal spell for white at common, and Pacifism gets a 3.5.
Heart.
I had to find it on the list.
That's not in there.
Raise the alarm.
Raise the alarm.
Raise
Like
the
the
alarm
song.
and drop the bass.
Raise the alarm. Very, very important. Most people don't know this, or at least I've seen this a lot so far in Sealed. It's an instant. You can play it at instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
It's an instant.
Because this card in this format, I think 1 toughness creatures on the ground are so much worse.
So much. Yeah, attack with your Scorpion.
But we think this card's really important because we think that white wants to be going wide with its creatures and then playing something to pump all of them and finish the game.
Very much so, yeah. There are also a lot of things to
There's also some
help it out.
cards with random like token synergies, and as you'll see later on in white, a card that can become quite good out of nowhere with this card.
So I gave it a 3.
I also gave it 3.
3 solid.
3 for Raise the Alarm. Moving on.
Show Valor, no.
Starfield Mystic.
Starfield Mystic. It looks like we're going back to Theros. Pretty hardcore.
Card does kind of make you think that, doesn't it?
It
It definitely reminds you of Theros. But
Don't blame it.
it more belongs in Theros than it belongs in this set, because
What's up, Anthony?
what it's doing in this set is really not anything.
Nope, not at all. The enchantment spell, the
There's
decreases
a
in...
few enchantments that
too
it can
relevant.
make cheaper, and then, but we've looked and there really aren't that many, and then it's pretty hard to actually trigger its second ability to get it any counters.
Yeah, so 1.5 here. I mean, it's very fringe.
1.5, play it,
Little
fill
bit-
your curve, or if you have some enchantments, maybe it gets in your deck. 1.5.
Quite possibly.
Next
Aerial Assault.
Aerial Assault. So I think that this card is pretty playable. I think it's like a 2.5. I think in decks without a lot of flying creatures that are really aggressive, you might not play it when you're white. But you definitely play it, and it's going to be great in your like flyer stack for sure. And then I think it'll be pretty good also in your decks that have a few flyers that are a little bit defensive. But if all you're doing is attacking, this is not what you want, unless you have a bunch of flyers. Because then they have to attack you, or they're going to lose.
Yeah, I think the 2.5 is just like not very good. You can gain a couple life, which is pretty cool, but even if you're not gaining life, it's still like a decent removal spell. It's just like you have to make your opponent have the creature tapped, and there are a few creatures with vigilance or things that can get vigilance. So, yeah, 2.5 is good. I like where that's at.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to come over later, we have a break between 3 and 5, but we're scheduled to do Sealed a little bit later too. But you can come over if you like.
Okay. So
Angel of Vitality.
Angel of Vitality.
I put her as a 3.
I also put her as a 3.
Yeah, I think she's 25 life.
She's pretty solid even if you're not doing any work, and she helps you make her a 4/4. And if she's a 4/4, that's really, really good.
Hot sauce.
4/4 flyers for 3. Put them in your deck.
Yeah, very much so. But in the black-white life gain archetype, it's still really solid because it gives you the added bonus on the life. Yeah, put her in your deck. That looks pretty.
Yeah.
This guy. We had big discussions earlier on.
We did. And
but we came to a consensus here.
Well, we agree that the first one you don't take very highly, and then the more that you get, the higher you pick them. Because the more that you have, the better this card gets. And
Right,
interestingly, with the London Mulligan, this card gets even better.
Even better! Alright, bro.
Because you're more likely to mulligan the hands that have more than one of these, because it's kind of like a mulligan anyway. But also, when you London Mulligan and you get a hand that has more than one of these, you just put it on the bottom, and then you get it later. It's great.
Yeah!
So we think that
It's
basically you start kind of low, either a 1 or a 2, and then each one after that kind of goes up a grade or a grade and a half until you get up to like the 3s level, and then it kind of levels off a little bit.
yeah.
The real sweet spot you want for cards like this is like 3 in your deck. You have like 4 or 5, they can be pretty good, but before you play the first one.
Exactly. And like I don't think it's going to go beyond a 3 to a 3.5, no matter the number, but as you're scaling up, 1 to 2 for the first pick, maybe 2 to 2.5 on the second, and then 3 to 3.5 on the third.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a weird card in Limited, but
Just pick the first one speculatively, the second and the third one get way better.
very much so. Then we have Gauntlets of Light. You get +0/+2, assigns combat damage equal to the toughness rather to its power, and then you get to pay 3 mana to untap it. Oh my goodness.
Well, this is an aura, so I automatically don't like it very much.
Yep.
I honestly only think it's worth it on a few white creatures. I think it's pretty good on Daybreak Chaplain, Griffin Sentinel, or Fencing Ace, because you're effectively giving the creature +4/+4 instead of +2/+2. I think if you're only giving, your only chances to give your creature like 2 power and toughness from this, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah,
There's
I gave
too
it
many cards that can blow you out.
Well, we gave it a 1.5.
We did.
The Pseudo Vigilance also can come in handy, but
It's so expensive though.
there is a lot of benefits because a lot of the creatures in the format have higher toughness than the attack, which makes it a little bit deceptive. But again, auras aren't that great in Limited, so we had to rate it a lot bit lower than where it could have been without.
If this was Treefolk Umbra, I'd rate it a lot higher. Because it's a lot harder to blow out Treefolk Umbra.
Yeah, right?
But
Yeah.
if this is not Treefolk Umbra, so we don't like it as much.
No.
1.5. Moving on.
Only tree folks.
Moving on to Griffin Sentinel, which is one of the creatures
Griffin
that
Sentinel!
Gauntlets of Life is actually pretty good on.
Pretty good. Flying and vigilance, so you don't need to pay that tax.
But without Gauntlets of Light, we think it's pretty solid. We think you play it about half the time, right? Because it's a 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, like you play it in your like blue-white flyers deck like every time, and then the other white decks maybe don't. They play in the aggressive ones, probably don't. But it's pretty small clock, and it can protect you reasonably well. So 2 for Griffin Sentinel.
Good in the flyer decks. Outside of that, yeah. Then we have Hanged Executioner.
Oh yeah.
The Executioner got the axe instead of the person who was gonna get the axe.
Sure.
That's the best explanation ever. 3 mana for a 1/1 that creates another 1/1. Then you get to pay 4 mana to exile itself and whatever creature you want.
Yeah, I really like this card.
This card's amazing. I think it's one of the
like
better
cool top-down design. Like it's like a midnight haunting that also is too. I really like.
Fun in
Just
the news.
a really good rate, and then can be really good removal if you need it.
The flavor's there too,
So
because the
that's why-
Executioner already killed someone.
That's why we give him a 3.5.
So then the Executioner killed himself or herself. Himself looks like a him because he felt so bad. So now that's why you get 2 spirits. It's because he killed someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah,
the flavor's there. So 3.5.
definitely there. Mm-hmm.
3.5. Rule of law. 0.
Don't put this card in your deck. That's why it's a 0.
No.
Don't ever put this card in your deck. Our opponent played it against us in sealed, and it was like they time walked us. Just don't do it.
They allowed us to cast a time walk on
I don't know
them.
what else
It
to
was
say.
pretty awesome.
I can't think of a matchup you would ever board this in, so just don't ever put this in your deck. Moving on.
No.
Don't do it.
Steadfast Sentry. We got a 3 mana, 3/2 vigilance. When he dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. I gave it a 2.5 because it is pretty solid. You can attack and defend with it, and then there's also a benefit when it dies. So
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower. I gave it a 2. I think because it's a white 3-drop, what I want to be doing with my white 3-drops is just filling up my 3s with Battalion Foot Soldiers. So that's why I gave it a little bit lower grade. Also, it's just Spinal Centipede with Vigilance, and if you play with Spinal Centipede, cards with 2. You play it sometimes. You don't always
but
play it.
with vigilance,
I don't think Vigilance changes this card enough. I
All
still
right.
think it's a 2.
it's a 2. There we go.
Johnny.
Johnny.
All right.
Look
Johnny
at this.
We both agree that Johnny is a bomb.
It's a bomb diggity bomb. And look, a Johnny's Pride Mate's back.
As a token.
That's a freaking token.
You can have Pride Mate tokens.
So it's a 4 mana Planeswalker here. We got 5 loyalty. +1, you gain a life for each creature you control, plus the number of Planeswalkers you control. His -2 is you make a Johnny Pride Mate token, which is actually named a Johnny Pride Mate. So that's fun.
Yeah.
And then if you have at least 15 or more life from your starting life total, exile a Johnny Strength of the Pride and exile each artifact and
often do you
creature
really-
your opponents control.
How often do you really get to like do that though?
The turn you win.
Well, yes. If you do that, you're probably gonna win. 'Cause you have like a lot of creatures already, and you just plague wind them, and then they die.
They die.
So if you have a lot of creatures, he can gain you a lot of life and get there. I guess that's the joke or something with this card. But the point is, it's
yeah.
really powerful. A lot of times you'll just tick it down, make a Pride Mate, and start ticking it up, make another Pride Mate, and then that's probably going to be enough to win the game a lot of times anyway.
Yeah, very, very solid. I still feel like it's missing something to receive the 5.
Yes.
So I gave it a 4.5.
That's why I also gave it a 4.5. I think it's not a stone cold bomb that's going to win you the game like immediately if it's not dealt with, but it'll give you a pretty good advantage if it's not dealt with. So
Yeah.
that's why it's a 4.5.
Griffin Protector.
There it is.
He's protecting it.
This is the card that makes Raise the Alarm like a
There.
total blowout sometimes.
It's very, very good. So it's a 4-mana flying 2/3. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Griffin gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. So yeah, Raise the
I
Alarm.
think it's
There's
a
other
solid
token
flyer.
makers.
It's going to attack for 3 most of the time. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But it turns Raise the Alarm into a sick combat trick. So
Hurrah!
3.
3.
It's very solid.
Trace. Inspired Charge.
Inspired Charge. This is going to be a finisher in a lot of white decks, but you don't need to pick it highly because you people don't take this card early, but if you have a whole bunch of creatures or a whole bunch of tokens, this card's going to be good. That's why I give this like a 1.5. You play it in your high creature decks or your token decks, and because you don't have to pick like every other format that this card is in, you'll get them for free on the wheel, and you'll play them.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be best suited for like really aggressive decks and maybe the green-white decks. Board stalls if they ever occur. But yeah, 1.5.
Moving on to Inspiring Captain.
Inspiring Captain.
The other Inspired Charge. Because there's 2 of these kind of cards at common, I think it'll be even easier to get them. Even though maybe all the white decks will want 1 or 2 of them.
I think the other ones do too. Just like another
But
advantage like that,
this one
especially on a
more.
creature.
I like this one a little bit more because it's a creature.
Yeah. So 2.5.
So 2.5.
Ley Line of Sanctity. It's back. Ley lines.
Ley lines. Alright, we're getting into ley lines now. Ley lines are, spoiler alert, chat. Ley lines are those zeros that can be worth money that you don't actually want to tear up.
Exactly. Do not tear up the zeros of the ley lines because they're actually worth a little bit. A little bit of moolah.
Yeah, the white one and the black one especially.
Save them for constructed. Keep them out of limited.
Yes.
Yeah.
This card just doesn't do enough in a game of limited to be a real Magic card. So
0.
Don't put it in your deck, please. 0.
It's horrible. Master Splicer. He's pretty sweet. I gave him a 3.5. He's a 4-mana 1/1 that makes a 3/3 token, but also gives other golems +1/+1.
Yeah, I also gave him a 3.5 on rate, just because it's like a 1/1 and a 4/4 for 4 mana, which is actually an insane rate for white. White doesn't usually get that kind of a rate of power toughness for mana. So
No, they don't.
3.5, just extremely solid rate.
Pick him highly.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's not a card. Alright,
There
we
we
get to
go.
our first Cavalier.
Cavalier
Cavalier of Dawn.
of the Dawn.
This card does a lot of things, but mostly it's a 4/6 for 5 that can get you out of a lot of bad situations.
Yeah, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. So if it's the only thing on the board, you don't need to destroy itself. Its controller gets a 3/3 golem, which also helps out with a splicer. And then when it dies, you may return an artifact or enchantment from your graveyard to your hand.
We don't think that will come up very often, but the rate is just so solid on this card. That's why I gave it a 4.
Yeah, very much so. What did I also gave it a 4? If I flip, no, I gave it a 3.5.
No, I think you gave it a 4.
I think
Because I'm the limited expert.
Oh, there
and
we
we're
go.
off by 0.5.
There we go.
So it gets a 4.
All right, so it gets a 4.
I mean, you can agree with that, right?
I have to. I think you play it for its enter the battlefield ability, its stats, and its mana efficiency.
Its die ability isn't going to come up very often, but it doesn't need that to be great.
Yeah. All right,
Dawning
Dawning
Angel.
Angel. This card's pretty good. It's a 3/2 flyer for 5, gain 4 life when it enters the battlefield.
Yeah.
I gave it a 2.5. It's just a average, good, solid pick.
I think it is a 2.5 on average. I think it'll be a little bit better than that in like the Flyers deck because it really helps you win a race, and also in the life gain deck it can be super clutch.
Yeah.
But on average I think it's 2.5, so pretty solid. Play it in most of your white decks.
Donnie Angel really wants a hug.
Squad captain.
Squad captain. Look at her brilliance. A 5-mana 2/2 with vigilance. When she enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on her for each other creature you control. Raise the alarm.
So because of her ability, you don't want to be playing her in a low creature deck, obviously. But she's a pretty solid 5-drop if you have a lot of creatures. So that's why I gave her a 2.5. I think most of the time you're going to have a lot of creatures.
2.5 is solid. Even if she gets like...
Pretty often she'll come down
2
as
or
a
3
4/4 or a 5/5. If she's a 5/5, that's pretty good.
Really good.
That's a good rate. But sometimes she can be very bad. Like when you're behind by a lot, she just doesn't do anything. She's the 2/2 vigilance for 5, and that's not what you want.
Nope.
So
that's why she's not better.
2.5 for squad captain.
2.5. Herald of the Sun! Praise the sun! Praise the sun!
This card is extremely solid for
Flyers.
one reason, really, is because it's like kind of a big flyer. A 4/4 flyer for 6 with no abilities would be pretty good anyway. And this one has the ability to put counters on your other creatures with flying.
With flying.
Note that it is another creature with flying. You cannot put counters on itself. The only time you can put counters on Herald of the Sun with Herald of the Sun is if you have 2 or more.
Yep. You have to have multiple copies of Herald of the Sun to get Herald of the Sun to put other counters on Herald of the Sun.
But otherwise, it's a pretty solid card. That's why I gave it a 3.
3 as well.
If it cost 5, it would be a 4.
Oh, it would be. That would be amazing. Just a better Sarah Angel.
Yeah.
Loxodon Life Chanter.
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
Alex loves this card.
I found this card to be very, very good. I thought I had to bring it down a little bit because I was overhyped on it, but I feel like this card is... The potential is huge, and the ability to come back is also pretty big. You do have to have other creatures on the battlefield because when it enters the battlefield, your life total becomes the total amount of toughness of creatures you control. So...
You may.
You may.
You don't have to lose life if it's...
Yeah, you
if
don't
you
want to
lose life.
But you get to add at least 6 to the starting life total.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't have it. I'm sorry.
It doesn't exist. There's no shiny version of this. That means it's going to be bad and constructed, right?
Yeah, it's bad and constructed.
Even when you're playing it.
But for 6 mana, it's not too bad. And then for 6 mana, you get to increase both stats, attack and defense, by X, where X is your life total.
That's a big threat of activation.
They
probably have to block it if you're attacking it.
It's huge.
Unless you're like super low on life. But this guy helps you not be super low on life, so that's why we like him.
I put him at 3.5.
3.5. That's correct. I agree. Anyway,
very, very good. Planar Cleansing is back finally.
It's back.
Oh my god! For the last 2 standard formats, I've been like, I just want to blow up the world.
I just want all these.
I just want all of these things to die. Can I please get a card? And I've had to use the stupid upheaval cards, but now we finally get it. And in limited, it's just as good. For board wipes, it's also kind of awkward because you need to put yourself in a situation where you don't lose as much as your opponent, especially since you're also giving up a card from your hand.
Yeah.
But just the potential to bring everyone back to parity. I just like
it because, if you have it, you can always catch up.
Yeah.
At least.
So I put it as a 4.
I also gave it a 4, just because of the catch-up potential on it.
So
mostly.
Good. Alrighty, and then for our last white card.
Our last white card is Safara, Sky's Blade.
Safara from the Safari.
If this card cost less than 7, it would be at 5, I think. But because it costs 7, and if they don't kill it, they can't kill you because it's huge and it has lifelink.
It is
just like a
so so difficult
because
to
of
just
it honestly, because it costs 7 though, I've made it a 4.5. I think this format will be slow enough where 7 drops can still be good, especially with these kind that can win the game all on their own.
Yeah.
But like I said, because it costs 7, I can't give it a 5.
Yeah, 4.5 here. It just makes your whole team just that much more powerful, and like they have to kill that before they can start killing off your other guys. This card's just awesome anyway. Like even
probably
if you're just
gonna be
like
paying 7 for it most of the time.
7
a lot of
drop.
times you're not gonna be able to have. You're just not gonna have 4 flyers that much, and if you do, like you might not want to tap all of them.
Yeah,
But it giving other creatures you control flying indestructible also very powerful.
very very solid. 4.5.
4.5, and that will do it for
That's
white.
it for white.
That's it for white.